One of the first things I learned in boxing was to throw punches in bunches. I must have heard that phrase 1,000 times, man. But what does that mean exactly? And why is it important? If you're a boxer, you could load up everything you've got into one great big haymaker and try to knock your opponent out with one punch. If you miss, load up another one and try again. Keep doing that until you land a good one. Maybe if you've got heavy hands and great timing. Maybe if you catch your opponent at just the right moment while he's making a mistake or while he's off balance, if he doesn't see it coming. Maybe that one punch at a time approach might work. Maybe if your hands are heavy enough, you can punch right through your opponent's defense and say nighty-night. It isn't impossible, but it just doesn't happen very damn often. Most of the time, your opponent goes down from the effect of accumulated punches. Maybe it's 100 punches that wear him down over the course of many rounds, but at the very least, it's 2 punches. The first one is the setup. You measure the distance, get your opponent's attention, so you can land that second one. We could call the second one the punchline. Jab, cross, right? 1, 2. The jab is the setup punch. And the setup is so important that every coach will tell you the jab is the most important punch in boxing. Everybody works on it. Nobody ever stops working on it. Now, when you throw 2 or more punches in succession, as part of an offensive pattern, that's called a combination. The punches precede and follow each other in a smooth, physically and tactically logical flow. Each punch in the combination sets up the next punch. If you do it just right, when your opponent slips, ducks, or dodges the first punch, he slips, ducks, or dodges himself right into the second punch, or the third, or the fourth. Action always beats reaction. So sooner or later, if you're reacting to your opponent's punches, time will not be on your side. You can't be Mick Jagger forever. To defend successfully, you can't be reacting to your opponent's punches. You have to be anticipating your opponent's punches. There are some very standard boxing combinations that everybody knows. Jab, cross, hook, uppercut, for example. There are coinciding defensive patterns, too. So, throw punches in bunches. Why is this important? What's the lesson that the sweet science has to teach us here? Well, simply this. Few, if any, events are truly random, isolated occurrences, even though the connection between them may not be readily apparent. That uppercut that clips your chin may have begun with the jab 3 punches earlier. But when that uppercut rocks your socks, you tend to forget about the preceding setup punches, because you have to deal with the physical, mental, and emotional damage from the uppercut. You have to learn to identify that pattern of punches coming at you. You have to be able to anticipate the next punch, or you'll always be reacting. You'll always be 1 punch behind. And that's 1 punch too many. If you don't understand and recognize the pattern that precedes the uppercut, that pattern that tells you that the uppercut is coming, you're going to get hit with the uppercut again and again and again. And nobody has unlimited chin. Let me throw another punch at you. It may seem unrelated to the first one, but it isn't. It's part of a combination. Behold, professional wrestling. Pro wrestling is a kind of mock combat theater, not unlike the combat shows you might see at a Renaissance festival, or the fight scenes from your favorite swashbuckling movie. In this case, each performer portrays a fictional character, typically having his own trademark gimmick, and they pretend to be competitive wrestlers. Well, they're not. It's just a show. Now, don't get me wrong, these guys are tremendously athletic. They're skilled acrobats. They're stuntmen putting on a stunt show, live and with no editing. Each wrestling match is scripted and choreographed and rehearsed. They decide who's going to win and who's going to lose. Who's going to be the good guy? Who's going to be the bad guy? How rivalries may be developed and resolved over the course of a season or even several seasons. But none of it is real. The actors aren't competitors, they're partners. They work together to entertain you, which is a very polite way to say they get you to give them your money. To enjoy the show, as with any show, you have to be willing to temporarily suspend your disbelief. There's nothing wrong in that. It's all in fun and no harm done, as long as that suspension is temporary and very narrow. Behind the scenes, there's a whole organization that produces the show, books the venue, engages the talent, promotes the show, divvies up the profits, keeping a nice big chunk for themselves, the producers whose names you never hear and whose faces you never see. The actors in the ring may come and go, but the producers, they're in it for the long, long haul. And no matter who they decide to anoint as champion this time around, there's never any doubt about who runs the show. So, what's the lesson that pro wrestling offers us? Maybe it's this. If you want to understand how events are connected, you may have to go past the superficial elements of the show, past the actors in the spotlight, and past their fictional rivalries and all that. You have to look behind the scenes. You have to follow the money to the producers. What have you learned, Dorothy? I would submit for your consideration 2 items. Item number 1, there are no random isolated events. Just like punches, events in life are connected, part of a pattern, deriving from what came before and paving the way for what comes next. The connections may not be obvious, but it's critical that you learn to see them, to recognize the pattern. And the earlier you recognize the pattern, the better off you'll be. Because your only effective defense is not to react, but to anticipate. You can't anticipate if you can't recognize the pattern. And you've only got so much chin. Item number 2, always look behind the scenes for the names and faces that keep popping up at the scene of the crime. I don't mean it's literally the scene of a crime, unless it is. Don't get so caught up in your willing suspension of disbelief, your empathy for or identification with the actor strutting his hour on the stage, that you begin to believe the show is something more. That would indeed be a tale told by an idiot. So, be like Toto. Pull back that curtain.